Same guy
There's the camera.
with a personal vendetta because I made him look so stupid when we caught him. He was doing a sort of security detail for Eric Holder and just made him look like an idiot.
Was that in New York?
No, I was in DC.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the guys. He's
I couldn't tell from
I forget his name, but because I try not to make it personal with law enforcement officers, even in cases like that. But he's Parks Police, so that's why he was at both of those events.
You're all into false flags and stuff.
Yeah, I understand the concept, absolutely.
Any words you have on anything coming up?
On anything coming up?
You know anything?
False flags that we should be anticipating, yeah, with all the run-up to Iran.
2012, Iran.
Man. I would hesitate to make predictions, but clearly the incentives are there for Obama to do some really fucked up shit right now. And you see in the actual policy that he's trying to carry out, you know, with this jobs program that he's got, where he's letting people on unemployment do on-the-job training and get paid their unemployment benefits at the same time as getting paid for the jobs. It's like I think you're going to see it more. I mean, just as likely as a false flag in the next few months, you're going to see Obama making a lot of promises and trying to push as much money into people's hands as possible to buy votes. Honestly, I maybe it's too optimistic to hope that that's all we see from Obama between now and the election instead of a false flag that gets us into war. But it really is like one of those perfect templates for the historical process leading up to an election. There's the march to war with a specific country. You know, this happens and this happens and this happens, and then there's an attack, and then he has a perfect excuse to be the wartime president with a war that's legitimate and he can start, and it's not just cleaning up Bush's mess. So I don't want to. It's like trying to predict the behavior of a psychopath.
Well, I don't want to put you on a spot here. I don't want to make you say something you regret. Okay. But
there's a camera too.
There was Fukushima, and there was the Gulf. Okay, one happened on 420, one happened on 3/11. I'm seeing something like a computer false flag to shut us down so that we can't talk.
Right beneath that car, that truck's going right there. Yep. You go right to there, turn right.
Did you hear about
Transit Road? Go about
coming
2
up
miles,
with the individual conspiracies
of
the way that the superclass manipulates society and manipulates government are less important than attacking the fact that the superclass as it is exists in the first place. I think it's crazy to say that there aren't any conspiracies. And it's disgusting to hear people try to say that the government narrative about 9/11 is the truth. It's fucking absurd. But to spend time delving into the minutia of that or trying to predict it rather than address the core issue. Like we know there's a superclass. The idea that they don't conspire to manipulate government to exploit people, that's fucking ridiculous. But trying to make predictions about that or trying to see what the next one is going to be, or even looking back at the past and saying, well, this is what happened, it's like they love you for doing that. The super class that's working on the next scam, they love the fact that people are still talking about the Kennedy assassination. If they find out that something really fucked up was behind that, they don't care because they're already fucking you in the ass with the next one.
That's right.
And so you want to take them on. You want to take on the conspirators, the super class people that have no morals and will do shit to manipulate governments to further the exploitation. Don't look at the conspiracies. Don't look at the possibilities. Look at the immediate reality, which is that these people have a power over us that they shouldn't have in the first place. And they have it because, by and large, socially, we grant it through government to other people. We give up our sovereignty because we're frightened into thinking that we need government for this or that or the other. And next thing you know, false flags, unnecessary wars.
What do you see as a solution to take these people down?
The paradigm shift is the only way, man. It really comes down to the mentality of the average American or the average human being on this planet. It's a global revolution, it's a love-olution, and it's about us, empowering people. And this is why the technology is so important, because technology is empowering. When you lived in a tribe you know, in a primitive state of humanity, and whoever could pick up the biggest rock was in charge, you didn't even have the opportunity to question that or to think that there was something else. Your entire world was what's right there in front of you. And now we have the internet, where every human being is able to have a global awareness and a global perspective, and if they want, they can see through all of the bullshit, they can see through all of the lies. So just that technological empowerment almost makes it inevitable. And you know, sometimes I even think that everything we're doing as freedom activists is futile, because like, are we going to stop the collapse of the American empire? Hell no. Is any awareness about the Federal Reserve going to stop the dollar from collapsing and some economic, not chaos, but at least some economic disorder from happening? No, it's not. And what's really driving world events and how society is organized is not, you know, the few individuals with the message spreading the truth, as much as it is the broader social dynamics that empower people, and we can show the way for people to apply that. But it's almost arrogant of libertarians to think that our message is the be-all, end-all that will inevitably save humanity.
You had a great line there about how we take over the world and
leave everyone alone. But that's what's happening anyways. People are more empowered by technology and can't be convinced of bullshit. And the government knows this. The government, like the internet, is already a huge check on government power, because the government knows, like, for police officers, I mean, as bad as the police state is, every cop with a gun who thinks he's got legal immunity knows that if there's a dozen people holding up a cell phone video camera to the whatever shit he's pulling on some individual, he's probably going to lose his job. You know, and the same thing applies to politicians, to elected officials. They know that there's a limitation because the internet already provides that.
You know, the reason I asked you about false flags was because you brought up today the underwear bomber.
I have a good time.
Could have been. Could have been a complete setup, yeah. Wouldn't be surprised.
Politics, local, regional.
It was a great thing to get everybody talking about the threat of terrorism for months and making jokes about it and accepting it as like common fact.
The TSA scanners.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's an obvious conspiracy. The conspiracy to defraud the American public in the name of airport security.
Have you chased these rabbits down the halls? Have you found out where they end up?
Well, I mean, to some extent, but then you get into like, I mean, I know what the Bilderberg Group is. You know, I know what the various people's visions of the New World Order is. But to me, it's a lot of it's speculative, and it's not that. Like for me, like 9/11, for example. To me, it's enough to know that the government story is bullshit, and that we should entrust them and look to the future, not to the past. And to me, in a sense, all of that looking into what's behind it is all looking to the past.
I got one last question.
I mean, not necessarily, but like I said, the fact that the superclass exists is more important than knowing, you know, knowing that the superclass exists and that it conspires to exploit people, and it does it by convincing them that they need to be exploited through government, that government is necessary. To me, that's enough. Learning the minutiae of how they do it is not nearly as important as stopping their ability by looking at policy, looking at the paradigm, and waking people up to the message that empowers them to think of themselves as not needing to be a serf, not needing to be a subject of a government, but to be a free individual human being. And as long as the paradigm, as long as the human condition is such that we are abused as children, that we are frightened and think we need government, there will be a superclass. It goes away when we stop empowering it.
How about groups? You for joining groups or anything like that?
Maybe you'll get a job.
In what sense?
If they know you're hanging out here,
Support for when it collapses?
But don't go in there.
Like local aggers collectives? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's huge. I mean, I think more than in the event of the collapse. I'm pretty optimistic about the collapse in the sense that I don't think, I mean, even if the dollar were to really spiral out of control and we saw an immediate push for a global fiat currency and there was some economic chaos and like people couldn't eat because there wasn't enough money in the system to, you know, keep the food supply going, I can't imagine that would last too long. Like, I'm ready. I got guns, I got bullets, I got silver, I got a couple cases of MREs, I got a nice SUV. You know, I shouldn't say a nice one. I got a practical SUV. I got a dog. You know, I feel like I've got my escape pod if I need it. But I'm not going to invest in a bunker, you know, full of food rations to last 20 years. I don't think that's what we're coming at. I've got a New Mexico purebred. It's a Dane Pit.
If you had a bunker, you'd take it though, right?
I mean, yeah, I'd have it. I think it's I wouldn't turn it down if someone said, "Hey, here's a bunker. You can put your name on this."
I really have one more thing that I want you to cover for your own self. Okay. Now, Adam vs. Man, you debunked the cop guy. Okay. But you did confess that you were a fraud. Can you please?
That I'm a fraud.
Yeah, that's what you said. Can you please say otherwise?
Monday morning.
I'm a fraud. How?
You're not a fraud. Tell us you're not a fraud.
I'm not a fraud.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Was that convincing enough?
You know why, Adam? Because people may not take what you say as hypothetical, but as literal. So if you come out and you said that
And my business partner
you got me
brother
on fraud,
runs that.
people will take that seriously.
Around there.
So I'm looking out for you because of the movement, and I want them to know that you're not.
Sorry to interrupt.
People can judge for themselves.
Thank you.
Right on, man.
That was great. Thanks for
appreciate
everybody
it.
coming
Thank you,
out.
Steve.
Alrighty.
So I think the temptation of calling someone a fraud exists when they're trying to sell you something. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just speaking the truth that I know, and it just so happens that there are enough people that appreciate that they donate to support my cause and buy my swag and keep me going and keep gas in my tank and invite me to come out to events like this because they know that the message is the truth and that, you know, I've got a distinct skill, I suppose, in analyzing it and communicating it, and people appreciate that. If I was selling something, I mean, I'm selling you t-shirts. They're real t-shirts. They won't fall apart on you. They won't. They're not like made of invisible ink, and you're gonna look naked or anything. They're real T-shirts, you know. And as for the message, like I said, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to get people to do anything specific that's gonna benefit me personally. I mean, I'm trying to get this message out because I think it's gonna make a better world for my children. And if I can make a living doing it, well, all the better for me. And it's, you know, that much more of an opportunity for me to enjoy life. And I love what I do. I love being able to do this. But for everything I'm selling, my idea is judge for yourself, evaluate for yourself. You know, run them through your own systems and tests of logic and reason. And if you disagree with the ideas because you were abused as a child and you feel the need to project your emotional insecurities on the rest of the world and institute them in a thing called government, then you're going to reject my ideas and you're going to think I'm a fraud. But if you like them, you'll appreciate and you can listen and you can evaluate for yourself. And I think more and more people are eager for this message. So I'll always be a fraud to those who think that, you know, being emotionally secure and not having to turn to statism or to government violence to force your will on other people makes me a fraud. But I'm just speaking the truth that I know, and people can judge for themselves.
Thank you, my friend, my brother.